On today's show, how are the Dallas Mavericks in 2024? They're going to face the Clippers in the playoffs, different than the Mavericks we saw in 2020 and 2021. Luka Doncic, for one, is very different. We'll talk about how on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
How about 10 Mavericks, NBA champions? Bang! It's good!
And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show. Make it Locked On Mavs your first listen today. But the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen to the show every day on any podcast platform. Leave a 5-star review, like the video on YouTube, and comment anything below. Let me know on YouTube in the comment section what's one way the Mavs are different than they were in 2020 and 2021. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I have to admit it, I have a competitive side. I beat Isaac in a game of pickleball earlier today, and I'm a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on a classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. Joining me, as always, co-host, writer, contributor, Mavs.com, Studio 41, the Weebag boy, the One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
That was a nice sponsor. I wasn't expecting that sponsor at the top here. If you listen to Welcome to Mavs Land, that will be brought to you by Sorry, where you can play another board game. Thank you for showing love to my show, by the way. My show with the Studio 41.
The squad.
The Mavs. Yeah,
the squad is in there, always commenting every time.
Guys, thank you so much. The squad shows up. It's my once a week show with the Dallas Mavericks. Welcome to Mavs Land. Comes out on Mondays. And yeah, I always enjoy later on that evening at night. Click on the comments, and there's the Raccoon Squad in there. So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
We're there for you. The squad will continue on with you. You may have left to do something the same, but we will continue. We will continue on with
Somebody
you.
called me Judas the other day in the comments. I was like,
they were right. Whoa. Hey, and they were right to do so.
Dude, Slightly is 10 times better. The stuff that Slightly puts out, I laugh so hard. I can't really fully comment on it or tweet about it because it's, it's just can't as a company employee. But it's just absolutely incredible. So Slightly, keep doing your stuff, man.
Love him. Love having him and everybody on the show. And yeah, we're continuing on this Mavs Clippers week where we get to preview this. I love having this week off before. I love getting to preview this series, really getting to dive into it. And so today we'll talk about how the Mavericks are different from the 2020 and 2021 Mavericks that pweed the Clippers then to what the Mavericks are now. Then the next 2 days, myself and Darian Vaziri of Locked On Clippers will talk about the Mavs Clippers and how they match up now. So we're leading you through this whole week. We've got the biggest questions I talked about on Monday with Reggie, how the Mavs are different now, and then we'll talk about how they match up. And Slightly and I will answer all those questions in extra episodes throughout this week too. So much stuff coming in.
Reggie Miller?
All right, Isaac, let's talk about how Luka is different, because I think that Luka is different than he was in 2020 and 2021. He was 21 years old and 22 years old back then. He was a younger guy. In the Clippers series, though, he did dominate. Oh, he did. 33.5 points, about 9 rebounds, 9.5 assists, shot about 49% from the field, 39% from three, and 60% from the free throw line. And in those two series, he took them to 6 games in one, 7 games in the other. The Clippers were overwhelming favorites in those. How do you think Luka is different from those series to now?
Well, Carmelo with a 3-pointer.
I need a recovery beer.
I've kind of missed that soundboard, to be honest. I laughed the other day. Whatever that show that Chandler Parsons and Lou Williams is on, they were talking about this series, and Lou Williams is like laughing. He's like, Luka, it's not like you can do like 35 and 10 for a whole series, maybe a couple games. And I'm like, I'm pretty confident you were in a series that he basically did that. But I guess I'm wrong. 33 and 9 is not 35 and 10.
And that's over 2 series, by the way. That's both Clippers series combined.
I think when you're looking at a lot of the differences between, the Mavs now and those 2 series then, I actually think Luka is like further down the list as far as all the differences, because what we've seen him do at 21 to Kawhi and Paul George and the Nick Batums and Marcus Morrises of the world, these other, they were how many, that was 4 years ago, 3 years ago. Those guys were younger, playing more minutes and stuff then. And so he can still do that. Like, he's still going to put up monster numbers. I think he's smarter with the decision-making now. And I think it's more of like how he plays with his teammates now is different than, and I don't want to like take it away from Luka, but it's more of the roster makeup around Luka that's different this time, that didn't allow him to play really this way now that he had to back then.
He's definitely not the most different thing on the Mavericks for sure, but I think he is 3 years older, 4 years older. He's had the Western Conference Finals run to learn.
He was skinnier back then, but I don't like. But he's not like. I'm not saying that in a way of like, oh, he's out of shape and stuff right now. No, because trust me, we did about 4 million podcasts talking about Luka's conditioning on here. And it's like, I think he's in, pretty good condition right now. So, but you look at some of those highlights, especially from the bubble, and you're like, dang, you're pretty skinny back then.
Yeah. He's definitely in a different shape, but he's also stronger. I think he's in better condition probably now than then. And I think that he's a better shooter than he was. I mean, I've talked about on this show, I think Luka this season was the second best shooter in the NBA after Curry.
Oh,
second in threes attempted per game, 38% from three. He shot better in his catch and shoot shots this season. Finally, he still can hit the step back better than anybody else in the league. He can hit mid range. He can hit at the rim. He hit at the rim at a really good clip. Like, I think shooting from all over the place, I think he was the second best shooter.
Yeah, I'd have to look at it from back then, because even back then,
hold on. Was I more biased than the Mavs employee? Did I give Luka a compliment that you're not willing to give him?
Yes, I know. I'll give it. I mean, I wasn't ready for the best shooter besides Steph take. I'm like, crap. I mean, do I have to like?
Wow, I over Mav State Media to the Mav State Media.
I was just thinking about Tim, and I was like, I don't know, but I mean, even when you go back to the series, the 2020-2021 series, like, yeah, you look at his seasons going into those playoffs, he didn't shoot the three at a high clip, but once he got to playoff time, we saw him take it up a notch, because I'm pretty confident, I don't have it in front of me, he shot like 41%, 39%, somewhere through there from three in that, and especially the latest series in which they played. Are you calling this round three? Because I started off calling this round three, but now I'm really backing away from it, because there's so much different, like, on both sides. Like, I talked about this on yesterday's show, on my show yesterday, is like, there's just so much different. Like, there's so much difference, not with just the Mavericks. The Clippers have Kai Jones. But I mean, they have James Harden. Like, some of those guys are gone. Some of the guys are a little older. I think I'm like starting to lean away from the round three.
It's just because it's still Kawhi and Paul George versus Luka, right? Okay. It's and still Ty it's still that and Ty Lue. And did you see my stat about what percentage of minutes are returning and are still on the roster from those series?
No, I did not.
So I went through the 2020 and 2021 season. I combined all the minutes from everybody.
Okay.
The Clippers are returning 44% of all total minutes that were played in those series. They're still on the roster. That's your Kawhi Leonard, your Paul George, Zubats, Terrence Mann, all that.
Amir Coffey.
For the Mavericks, do you think it's higher or lower, the percentage? It was 44% for the Clippers.
Oh, it's lower. Yeah.
It's 44% exactly.
What? Because Dwight and them played more.
It's the exact same. Are still on the roster. It's Luka. It's Tim Hardaway Jr. It's Maxey. Forget about Maxey. He played a lot of minutes. He played like 30 minutes a game in those series. Then you have Dwight and Josh Green, and there's not a lot. And yeah, the Mavericks roster is completely different, but there's still a lot of the same players in it. So yeah, to me, it's round three. But coming up, let's talk about how they're different and how this roster is different, because that is the big thing that's different. And one of the biggest things is Kyrie. How is Kyrie? This is the worst tease I think I can do, because it answers itself so well.
I'm so excited.
How is Kyrie different from having Tim Hardaway or Porzingis as your second option as a second scorer?
No, come on.
Let's talk about that going on. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is something that I think everyone needs, and that's therapy. they provide a service for you where if you just have something that you need to talk about, you've got anxiety, you've got something going on in your life, and it's bigger than what's in front of you, and you always have the anxiety, you go to bed, you think about it, thoughts race through your head, you've got questions that just keep running through. I had this, and I use BetterHelp, and I still go to therapy today to talk about these things. Therapy is different for everybody. Most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports team playing the same team for a third time in the playoffs, and it's important to get things off your chest every once in a while. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible, it's suited to your schedule. So check out BetterHelp. It's suited to your schedule, so you can schedule it whenever you want. And I like this about BetterHelp is that you can find a therapist. You meet with them once, and if you didn't vibe with them, if you didn't like it, then you can change at any time. If you meet with them twice and you're like, man, something they said I didn't vibe with, or something they just don't understand me, they don't understand my religious background, or they don't understand this about me, you can change it at any time, and they completely understand that. It's totally meant to do that. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. Again, BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA.
I'm not playing. I'm watching, just like you guys.
Kicking me out of the ad reads. How do you do this?
Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. We appreciate each and every one of you who have listened for a long time. Anybody that's listened for a long time knows Isaac used to be co-host on the show for 6 years. We built this show together. And so if you're joining in new now, this is who Isaac is. He works for the Mavs now, and he did not die, as one commenter put yesterday.
Yeah, I thought he passed. I'm like, crap. Passed gas? Yeah.
He passed on doing the show again. That's what he did.
I will tell you, I get asked whether it's at a game, in the comments, or on Twitter, hey, when you going back on Locked On?
Yeah, that's right.
It's like, dude, so I told people, dude, I'm going on next week. Calm down. We're doing this.
Well, you lied. You said that you were going to, when you left, you said you were going to come on a bunch, and you have not. So
you haven't asked me because you have all these cool people now.
This is your third time that you've come on?
Is it? I'd come on more if you want me. I mean, crap.
You always put it back on the other one. I think the biggest difference from the Mavericks then to the Mavericks now.
You always have
is Kyrie.
Last word. All right, now keep going. Keep going.
That is an inside joke only for people that go to Mavs games.
Must keep swimming. Must keep swimming.
Kyrie, I think, is one of the biggest differences for the Mavericks. Because the second option for the Mavericks was Porzingis that first year. Because in 2020, he was very good. He had 34 in the one game. He played the first 3 games, then was out the last 3. 2021, he's a different player and wasn't as good. But Tim Hardaway was their second option. What's the biggest difference with Kyrie?
Well, I think he should win the Clutch Player of the Year in Kyrie Irving, and I think this is the biggest thing. The biggest difference is now you go into these clutch moments, and it's not all right, now Luka should figure it out. You have to do you have to figure out magic every single time, and now you're going into the end of games, and we know we're going to have this in the playoffs, to where you have somebody opposite of Luka that's, don't get mad, Luka fans, that's equally as talented as him on the offensive side of the ball.
Made all the Kyrie fans happy.
But because that's what, and somebody you can trust on the free throw line, a 90% free throw shooter. He's like, you look at his clutch stats this year, percentage wise, I think he's shooting 60% in clutch time this season just ended. And so I think that's the biggest thing is now you're walking into these big time moments, especially in the playoffs, and you have a guy that's experienced, that's hit the big shot before, that's won a ring, that's played alongside superstars, and he's playing at arguably, one of the top levels of basketball that he's ever played at. That right there is just like such a relieving, special thing that nobody else in the you have 2 guys that if you made the list, who was it? Was it Iguodala who said, hey, game's on the line? He didn't pick Steph earlier in the season on that podcast because it made the rounds on Twitter, and he's like, no, I'd want the ball in Kyrie Irving's hand, not Steph Curry's hands. Like, we're talking about a Maverick that's not Luka Doncic. Who's like a few years ago who people were not saying Porzingis or Tim Hardaway. Like, people were never going to say those names, and now you have somebody like Kyrie Irving next to Luka for these end of game moments. We saw the lefty shot against Denver. We've seen it countless times this season come through over and over again alongside Luka. And that's the biggest difference. We're not even talking about we could go all these different ways, like him being the leader on the team off the court. We could talk about when when Luka gets rest and, what Kyrie's doing in the third quarters, some of these games and all this different stuff. But it's the clutch moments and how you close these big games. That's the biggest difference of having a Kyrie.
Huge. Absolutely massive to have him. And like Luka has not had a player like this next to him. Like give all the credit to Brunson for what he did in the first 3 games without Luka. He had 24, 41, 31 for the Mavericks to go up 2-1 against the Jazz in that first series. Brunson is the closest thing Luka has had to what Kyrie is going to bring this playoffs. But even look at Brunson in that Sun series. They played 7 games. Do you remember what Brunson averaged?
I don't.
Scoring?
No.
Do you think it's over or under 20 points?
Oh, I was going to say like 15.
Yeah, he averaged 18.7 points in that Sun series. So like even Brunson, who we like point as, oh my gosh, he's hit this level now. Like Brunson was amazing this year, obviously, and has been an amazing player and has taken multiple steps forward even since he left Dallas. But Kyrie is operating on a different level than Brunson was that run. The Mavs went to the Western Conference Finals then and beat a 64-win Suns team there. And I just think
incredible, just a great Eclipse tweet, by the way. Just one of your finest tweets. Just want to you would have
it was just perfect, and you just can't pass up an opportunity to just poke at the Suns again. But Kyrie, I think, is one of the biggest differences. The other biggest difference, I think, is the defenders that the Mavericks have now. I mean, man, thinking back to some of the defenders in the series, so they had Dorian. He played 35 and a half minutes a game in both the series. It was great. It was great to have Dorian then, but I don't even think Dorian was like on the level that Dorian was in the Western Conference Finals run. I think he took a step forward that way. Maxey played 30 minutes a game in those series. Porzingis played 32 and a half minutes a game. He was, the rim protector, but I don't feel like Porzingis really even took that step forward as a rim protector until the season when he got traded. That's when I thought he was his best as a rim protector with the Mavericks. Here are the other guards and wings that played in those Clipper series. You ready for this?
I'm ready for Trey Burke.
Tim Hardaway played 35 and a half minutes a game in both series. In 2020, Steph Curry played 28.8 minutes a game. Did I say Steph Curry? I meant Seth Curry. I meant his brother. Trey Burke in 2020 played 26 minutes a game in those series. He played all 6 games. He played 26 minutes a game. Bubble Burke. DeLon Wright in 4 games in 2020 played 13 minutes. And then in 2020, Brunson played 16 minutes. And Josh Richardson in 2021 played 13 minutes. Like these are the
how many minutes did Dwight play?
Dwight Powell?
Yeah.
I don't have it in front of me.
No, sorry. I was gonna do like a where are they now? That was like 3 years ago. And like where are they now / what's their role now? Like Trey Burke's not in the league. You look at a Dwight Powell, you look at a Seth Curry, like these guys aren't playing like at all. Like you look at Tim and like Tim's roles on the bench, and like I think we're gonna see, like I think it might surprise some fans, like sometimes like Tim's lack of playing time sometimes in the playoffs coming up. Like I think we could see Josh take more of his minutes, and especially if he starts off and he's like cold, it's like how much will they, there's one thing to let him hoist up shots against OKC in the last game of the season. But in a playoff series, so I think going back to that first conversation we had, when you look at the supporting cast around Luka and some of these guys, it's the fact that these guys have all taken a notch down in the rotation. And it's something what a lot of, like we said on the podcast a lot, it's like these guys are kind of being asked to do too much. They're being, these guys are starters, and they really should be like a backup big or a 6th man or, like the 3rd guard or a backup wing or something like that. And they were all starting it. Now they've all moved down a notch, and we have better, starters and stuff. And it's like, oh, okay. Now it kind of like fits together like a puzzle.
It absolutely does. I went back, and on Monday I did an extra episode, and I went through kids rotation in 2022. and how Kidd took the players from the regular season to the playoffs and who got more minutes and less minutes, because I was trying to equate that to the Mavs. Dinwiddie's minutes went down from the regular season to the playoffs. It was from 28 to 27, which isn't like a lot, but still, like, I think Tim's minutes go down in that same way. I think that you'd think that, all these guys are going to get more minutes. Well, somebody's going to get less minutes because a bunch of guys are going to get more minutes. PJ's going to play more. Derrick Jones Jr. is going to play more. Exum's probably going to play more. I think Tim's the one that loses minutes, just like you said. And it's because now the Mavs have these defenders. So coming up, let's talk about how they help the Mavericks be different. We'll talk about the centers, and we'll talk about more Mavs Clippers coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Dads are here for the ads.
Let's go.
I've been told I'm a competitive person. Isaac is a competitive person. He left this podcast to go start a competitive Mavericks podcast over somewhere else. So he is a competitive person.
If you pass Go, you get $200.
I'm sure you've heard of Monopoly Go. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, not two, not three, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, including the moon. Build up amazing cities that bring you money. But the best part is you can mess with your friends. If you have a friend that goes and leaves your show after 6 years of friendship and of camaraderie and of building a show together, you can charge them rent on iconic properties in classic Monopoly. You can also rob their vaults of riches.
Whoa.
And leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is, but it's not just the competitive side. You can also play fun games on your own if you can't find somebody that wants to play Monopoly with you. Get in the game, join your friends, download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. Again, download Monopoly Go on the App Store or on Google Play.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, Isaac. It feels so good to say that, and you're actually here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the biggest differences between the Mavs in 2020 and 21 against the Clippers and the Mavs now. We kind of touched on the defenders, but do PJ and Derrick Jones Jr. give you Dorian and Bullock vibes?
I get what you're going for, but I just think they're better defenders.
They're better defenders than Dorian and Reggie were.
Yeah. More versatile defenders. Yeah.
Wow. Explain.
Yeah.
Actually, hold on.
Explain yourself.
Sorry. Okay, Nico. So, no, they're bigger, they're longer. I think they're more versatile. I think Derrick Jones, if we just have those four guys, I think Derrick Jones is the better point of attack defender of those four. PJ, I've been a fan of PJ. I love what he can do, switching on defense. Obviously I love Dorian and his defense too, but I would give them the slight edge just because I think they can switch a little bit more and defend a little bit more across the board. Those two guys. And I really like when Exum's in there with them too. And I think one of the things that might surprise the people is I think Exum's going to close some of these games. And he's going to play more minutes than what some people might think. Yeah.
Well, they've been saving him. It's one of the reasons why is so they can play him a little bit more. You've seen him in.
But if you add up the salaries of all the supporting cast alongside Luka, it's just crazy because it just, the amount of games based off the salary and it moves them. It's just crazy.
The Mavs have been saving Exum, playing him 18, 20 minutes, 24 minutes here and there. And then you saw it a couple times at the end of the season. You saw a kid go, all right, Warriors game, let's play Exum 33 minutes. Let's play a playoff rotation here and play Exum 33. Against the Rockets, we want to come back in this game. Let's play Exum 35 minutes and just see how it goes. And I think we got a little taste of what that's going to be. I'm completely with you that I think Exum is going to play more. And I think having those defenders, Exum, PJ, Derrick Jones Jr., we haven't even mentioned Gafford and Lively yet. Maxey being back to where he was. The defense is so much better than it was in 2021 and 2022. I think it's better than it was in 2022.
Yeah, I mean, you just have so much versatility and flexibility. You can go if they, one of the questions I have for this series is who goes small first. Somebody's gonna make that decision first, and then it's just this chain reaction. Does Dallas match immediately, or do they feel like Gafford and Lively, what they can bring in the pick and roll will offset, like, hey, we think they can, defend on the perimeter a little bit more. But, one of the series I went back and looked at was the Clippers series against the Jazz, that like stacked Jazz team that was supposed to, make their run that year. They go out and they win the first 2 games against that Jazz team. And then, Utah wins the first 2 games. Rudy has this, positive plus minus, all this stuff. Then they switch things up. They put Marcus Morris at the 5. They, do this, stretch out 5 small ball, and they win the next 4 games. And it's like, it forces Utah. It's pulling Rudy out from the basket and all that. And I want to guess that the Clippers are going to try to do that to a guy like Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively. And will Dallas counter by putting Maxey in at that point, or do they ride it out? I'm fascinated just to see who goes small first and how much Dallas counters that.
The thing about that, though, is the Clippers small ball unit in 2021. I'm going to share this number a million times this week. The Clippers small ball unit in 2021, so no 5 on the floor, plus 10 net rating. They had 127 offensive rating, so 127 points scored per 100 possessions. Amazing. This year with no 5, plus 5 net rating. It's just not
Russ in that. Is Russ in that lineup? Because Russ brings like all their plus minus down.
They're 5. Like, they've played only 800 possessions with that. They played 1,000 in 2021 with small. Their small ball has just not been as good. The Mavericks has actually been better to end this season. And so if the Clippers go small, it plays in the Mavericks' hands a little bit. And so I'm really not worried about the Clippers going small as I was before, because they don't have the wings, they don't have Batum, they don't have Morris, they don't have, they have offense to do it. They have Norman Powell, who's different, James Harden, who's different, who brings a lot, but they just don't have the defense at all to play small the way that they used to.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it. I think their small ball unit will be their quote big 3 with Terrence Mann and Norm Powell, and I'm just, I guess technically Kawhi would be the 5 at that point, but I'm more curious about it than I am like worried about it. I think the thing that I'm worried about is the pace. Who wins the pace battle? And I talked about this yesterday of like who wins out on this, and it's how weird it is to talk about it for a Mavs team that the Clippers play this like really slow pace. They have these great ISO scores. They're really great in the pick and roll.
And they wanted old.
And it's like, in Dallas, I think so. The Clippers are like 23rd in pace. Dallas is like 6th in pace. But will Dallas like fall back to their old habits? Like, will they, when times get tough or they get in the playoffs and it's just a tense environment, will they just fall back into that? All right, well, now I got to ISO it out. Well, now we got to slow it down. Let me, like, instead of keep the pace going, keep picking it up, get out in transition. Dallas has decent transition numbers. Clippers don't have decent transition numbers. Like really you said, they got some older players. So, and that's one of the benefits of small balls. Like, theoretically, if they do want to go small, and Dallas counters with that, then pick up the pace even more. Like, let's keep this thing going. And I will say that's something I am scared about, is Dallas falling back into old habits.
Yeah. And they're all habits defensively too, because they've gotten beat in transition, and they've gotten beat on the perimeter if you can move the ball quick enough. And that's something I talked about with Darian on the crossover coming the next couple of days. Yeah, I'm interested in that. We haven't really talked about Boban and the centers, because in 2021, when the Mavs played the Clippers, Boban started 3 games. Love Boban. Wow. Boban's the best. Love him so much. But having Gafford and hopefully Lively, I think he's going to play. We're recording this Monday night, and I'm not sure. We don't have any new information or anything on him, but it's night and day, the difference between what they had then and what they have now. And the thing, though, is Zubac has been very good for them this season. And if the Mavs stay big, will the Mavericks go small first just to get Zubac off the floor? Because he's been very effective for them. And that is a curious thing about the small balls. Like, what do the Mavs try to make the Clippers do?
You say the curious thing about the small balls. I think
Great day.
I am. Whoa. Remember when we did that draft preview pod and some people got like legitimately upset because we just leaned into all the jokes and we were like, come on, guys, maturity.
Come to the wrong place, my friend.
Anyway, when it comes to Zubac, they know that Dallas is going to want to target him, and Luka will. Like, Luka loves to target Zubac. But I think I'm really curious of like who they have Zubac guarding, because I think what they're going to do is they're going to put Zubac on
Derrick Jones.
Derrick Jones, a non-Gafford, non-lively guy, somebody who like you don't want to play, the pick and roll game with, and then they're going to put a Paul George or Kawhi or somebody like that on a Daniel Gafford, and because what Daniel Gafford's probably not going to do, he's probably not going to post up, and we're not going to, and if he does, Ty Lue's like, please do this all day. So, because then it just forces you, right? You're like, all right, you're going to bring Gafford up to do the pick and roll. Well, cool, we'll switch, and now we have Kawhi on Luka. Like, okay, this is okay for us. Or if they're like, hey, you really want to target Zubac and we're going to play this switch defense like the Clippers, if they want to do that, then sure, we dare you to play a pick and roll game with Derrick Jones as the screen setter, really. All 58 pounds, and say, hey, you do this, Luka. So that's the chess stuff that I just love about the playoffs, and how, adjustments and who guards who and who's anticipating. I say chess because there's so much anticipation of like, what's the next, we'll do this and then they'll do this, so then we'll do this and all of that, and fascinated by it.
I love it. You got it all here on Locked On Mavs. We'll continue all throughout. We'll have Isaac back sometime throughout the playoffs to talk about this, because there's nothing better than doing playoff coverage like this. So, there you go. Tomorrow, the crossover with me and Darian from Locked On Clippers. Slightly and I will have episodes throughout the week too as bonus. All kinds of great stuff here on Locked On Mavs all throughout the week. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Peace out. Boom.
Wow. You did an AI version of me.
That's actually you.
Peace out.
I've used it every episode.
Peace out.